mic is
Yeah.
oriented slightly differently than it normally is. Okay, cool.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, great.
Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build products and recover from burnout. I'm Benedikt.
And I'm Brian. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we figure things out. Today is February 16th, and I am feeling behind.
This is episode number 78, and I'm feeling calm.
Very nice. I'm going to absorb some of that.
Why are you behind? Like, did you just wake up?
Well, I feel like I'm behind in a micro and a macro sense. I mean, in a micro sense, it was 7:59. I was pulling up or 7:59 my time, 1 minute before we start recording. I was like pulling up the note, the the outline, like, oh my gosh. And yeah, I had like just walked in, the house 2 minutes ago from dropping the kids off at school. On a macro sense, I feel like I'm just spinning. This week was just spinning a bunch of plates.
Mhm.
Trying to finalize zeroing in on some RVs, packing up a bunch of the house, looking at finances and stuff to, figure out with the timing of the buying the truck and when are we going to sell this and do that. So just a lot of things going, on the personal side. But then some good news on the business side is that I have a call tomorrow morning to finalize what looks to be like finalizing the contract for one of probably the biggest jobs to be done contract I've ever won. Um,
Nice.
and I don't think that I can. I think that I will be able to, but I don't think I can say who it's with just yet. But it would be really, really great. So it's like in the educational game like area. And so, which just is perfect for me. So I'm really, really excited about it. I mean, as a parent, I'm excited about what they're trying to work on because it's totally something that I buy for my kids. As a consultant, it's a great project. um, yeah, so there's just a lot going on there that feels like just trying to keep everything moving.
Sounds like it's in your sweet spot at the moment with like jobs to be done,
Mhm.
board games in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
That's cool.
the first, the intro call with them felt really easy because it was just like, look, I'm a former teacher. I do product now, and I'm designing a board game on the side. I mean, I I
I'm the
think we're
perfect fit.
I think we're a good fit. Now it's just, immense amounts of imposter syndrome because this is a really, really well-known company, and I feel like I'm just, little Brian Ray over here in Colorado. So, you know how that goes. But,
How did they find you?
a couple of my blog posts. Um, so finally my website got a client.
Well, I was about to say it's just the first instance of a website and a blog post or a couple of blog posts actually landing
Um,
someone a client.
yeah, yeah. I think, I mean that, yeah, so they did. They stumbled across a few jobs to be done posts that I had written, and they reached out and they were like, "This is exactly what we're trying to do. Can you do this for us?" And so, uh, that's that's how it started. So pretty awesome
Nice,
because it
nice.
does just feel like I can just point to that post and say, "This is exactly what we'll do together."
Mhm.
Um, how do you wanna go about it? Here's
Nice.
what I would recommend. So anyway,
And I
so
assume
that's all good.
is it like is it a remote job or is it like do you have
Yeah,
to visit
no,
offices or something like that?
they're based in Europe. Um, and so like their team, and so it'll all be, conducting jobs to be done interviews with them, like them observing me doing interviews so that they can like be taking notes and like get coaching afterwards. And then we'll break down, the content of the interviews afterwards together again, like with some coaching, structure a survey, execute and analyze the output of the survey. So basically, just like me going through the whole process with them and providing coaching and guidance along the way so that they can, continue to do it themselves.
Interesting.
Um,
So you're
yeah.
basically bootstrapping a JTBD process for them, or
Yes.
sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yes.
cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
will be doing. Did I get that right? You will be interviewing them, like as an example, or will you be
No. 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 No.
interviewing?
Yeah. Sorry. I think they will be sitting in on interviews that I
Hmm,
am conducting with their target market. So
interesting.
yeah, and taking notes along the way, all that kind of thing.
That's
So
pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited for you.
I'm excited too. I really hope that I hope that it goes great. Because it would be, for every reason. So yeah, that feels like, yeah, I can just even feel it, just like talking about it, that I'm super excited about it, and along with it just comes some nerves. So just
Yeah.
feels, yeah. I think that's one thing I'm totally noticing this, like, why about consulting versus if I were just a member of this exact same team, how I would be feeling. And I think the thing that I really dislike about consulting is it feels so, like, everything feels like a performance, you know,
Hmm.
where like you have to get it right the first time every single time, or at least that my perception is, or the client will think that you've like hoodwinked them,
Hmm.
or conned 'em or something, as opposed to like when you're an ongoing member of a team, it feels more iterative. And
Hmm.
hey, yeah, okay, here's what we learned from that. We're gonna make it a little bit better next time. And here, okay, cool. Just kind of continuing going along. It just feels so much more collaborative, and like everybody's on the same page. Whereas this totally feels like, it does. It feels like a public speaking performance every single time, where you have to stick it and like stick the landing and, hit a home run, whatever analogy you want to use, to prove that you were right in bringing in this outside expert, who
Hmm.
never misses, who always gets it right, who, is worth every single penny. Um, I just don't like that. I don't like that feeling overall. Sorry, that's kind of a rabbit trail. That just kinda, like, occurred to me the other day where it's like, "This is what I don't like about it. It's so performance oriented, and it's annoying."
Yeah, yeah.
Does that resonate with you at all from consulting days?
It does in a way. Yeah, I see, like especially in a setup like with this, like where you feel like you're just like a tiny player and you're working with this like huge enterprise. I can
Mhm.
see where this come like how this might, yeah, stress you out a little bit more. I have a feeling from my past, I just like was super careful with like the clients I work with, and it usually was okay. And I mean, it also wasn't like that much of a performance in terms of like doing calls and stuff like that. So it was always more like of a collaborative process, anyways, because with software development, it's not like
Right.
nobody knows what we're building in the first place, anyway. So it,
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier that way. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
but yeah, I know for some reason one occasion came to mind while we were talking about this, and it was like I was teaming up with a friend, and we got request by a business to do like they basically wanted a quote for a software platform for their business. And at the time we basically did discovery meetings with them. Like we would meet our customers and then like analyze their business a little bit, analyze their use case a little bit, and then like figure out what the software is. And we were in this with this one particular client. This meeting totally went sideways.
Oh,
Basically planned an entire day of just like doing business model canvas and stuff like that,
yeah.
like figuring out
Yes.
who's involved in this. And for some reason, like expectations were totally misaligned. Like we got there and started like poking at their business model and stuff like that, and trying to figure out a good solution and like
Right.
coming up with a good recommendation. But you could sense that the other party was like, why are they asking me a bunch of stuff about my business, and why don't they just blur out a
Why don't they
number,
just
like give an estimate and what this would cost, and isn't it totally obvious what we want to build? And from our side, it totally wasn't obvious, because like they
you
had
needed to
some.
understand what are you gonna
Yeah,
build that's gonna have an impact on their business. Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Whereas they're
exactly.
just
And
like, "Build us the we know the thing, build the thing."
yeah, but it wasn't quite like, as usual, it wasn't quite as obvious of
Yeah.
what this
Yeah.
thing would look like.
Yeah.
And it was one of those meetings, like we had a lunch break, and we decided to just like go for a walk, just the two of us, and talk a little bit. And it was obvious that we had to get out of there as fast as
Whoa.
possible.
Yeah.
And we got back to the meeting, and after the lunch break, and we're like, yeah, so it's obviously there's
Not a
there's a
fit.
misalignment, and it's not a fit. And they were pretty pissed. We were kind of I
Oh
don't
my
know.
god.
We weren't pissed, but it was like, I don't know. Yeah, we basically stopped everything after the lunch
Oh,
break, and
oh.
everyone went their ways, and
Yeah. That's
it
probably
was
the
an
right call,
interesting
sounds like it.
experience.
Yeah. Oh, sheesh.
But I mean, in the end, I mean, that's just how it is. Sometimes
Mhm.
it just doesn't work. And,
Yeah.
and I don't want to discourage you or anything. Like I,
Oh, no, 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 no. I mean, I think,
um,
like, that story and, like, how I'm feeling right now, um, so I think something that is really important to do, but also really hard to do, is to not associate your personal identity and personal worth with your work product.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Or your reputation.
yeah,
Like, all those things just, like, getting tangled up together, and, like, that particular business meeting where you made the complete right call, "Hey, there's no fit here, we should just call this." Um, that I can imagine, "Okay, what are they gonna think? What's that say about me?" Et cetera, all those things that just, like that just make it complicated, and I think the s the healthier boundary that you have between your worth as a person, your personal identity,
yeah,
and what it is that we're putting out in the world and what other people are gonna think based upon how successful or unsuccessful it is, you're better off the the bigger, the better, the more healthy of a boundary you have in place there, but, I mean,
yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard.
It's super hard, but I guess sometimes it's just what it is. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a perfect fit for every project, and
No.
if it suddenly becomes obvious that this isn't the right thing, then I guess it's okay to just like raise the point and
Mhm.
gracefully get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kinda curious, like, what does it feel like, as you're talking to all these other tiny seed companies in your cohort, in new cohorts, and, you know, some are, going to the moon, some are, probably getting ready to wind down, like, how do those meetings feel? Or, like, what's the vibe like in terms of, these people are doing great, these people haven't figured it out, this is not quite there. What's the how what are those conversations like, and what's the level of support like?
I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. I mean, overall, people are still supportive of each other or with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess, like in most cases, you just like don't have that much influence on it, so it's
Mhm.
not. It's some maybe got lucky and are super successful. Some just like figure it out in time, and some like us didn't. But I guess it's just how it is. And
Yeah. I
yeah,
I mean, I was yeah, so I was almost like It's a totally leading question almost because I think the thing that is helpful about the circles that we run in is that there's just a better understanding of that, you know,
Yeah,
that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's cool, it's fine, as
yeah,
opposed to other, you know, frankly, like VC circles and VC startup circles that I've, been in before, where it is totally like high school, how what was the last, "Oh, hey, their last round, they raised 15, like, their last round, and they're
yeah,
valued at 500 now, and they just got to 80 employees." Like, that whole thing just some of those, like, group summits and executive, summits that I've went to before felt exactly like being back in high school, and it was just so bizarro. Um, but I would imagine, a fund like Tiny Seed is way more down to earth, and that just
yeah.
the people are more down to earth.
I think I agree. Yeah, it's not like I don't feel like it's a lot of like comparing numbers and then feeling
Mhm.
smug about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a feeling if we all switched businesses for a month or so, not really sure that anything would fundamentally change. Some things are just easier or slash harder than others,
Right. Yeah,
and that's also what makes it hard. I mean, there's no one blueprint that works for every business and every
yeah.
setup and every condition, and that's why it's just hard to figure out what to do, I guess.
Mhm. Totally. Well, so what are you doing? What are you figuring out what to what to do in userless land?
Yeah, so last week was the first week in quite a while that felt like calm, like, and a bit like, I'm not saying relaxing is probably an exaggeration, but at least it wasn't stressful because something was burning
Mhm,
or something was on fire.
mhm.
Um, After our call last week, I was able to fix that response time spikes that I was seeing. Essentially, it was tweaking the dyno config a little bit.
Okay.
Instead of having multiple small ones, we now have a larger one with more processes on it, and that seems to handle things pretty well. It's still like from time to time it still spikes, but it's only once a week instead of 10 times a day or something like that.
Mhm.
And that finally allowed me to actually focus on some research and development for a change.
Nice.
So I spent the last
Nice.
end of last week, the last 3 days or so, basically working on the identity resolution problem that we
Mhm.
have to solve.
Yep.
I
This is
think
where
I've
you need, like, a globally unique identifier so that multiple potential identifiers from all these different services could work, an email
yeah,
address here, an ID there. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Okay.
So
Alright.
what we're basically doing is like have user profiles and then connect them with all the identifiers across the platforms.
Mhm.
And I think I have a solution figured out. I wrote a pretty big SQL query that would like look for an existing identifier, and if it doesn't exist yet, create a new one, and then
Mhm.
connect it to a user profile. If it doesn't exist, create a new one.
Mhm.
Um, and it's working, but it's like a giant SQL statement with like, I don't know, nested queries and stuff like that. And I had a hard time implementing that in Rails.
'Kay.
just just combining all of it into one big Ruby statement that I can send to the database.
Mhm.
I tried to do this 2 times. I tried to do this on Wednesday, gave up at the end of the day. Tried it again on Friday, gave up. I will try a different strategy this week. Let's see how it works. But overall, I'm confident that we're on the right track and I'll be able to figure this one out. So
Mhm.
that feels good. on on Thursday, I didn't feel inspired to actually work on this. So instead, I just did some house cleaning, some housekeeping. Finally got to upgrading to the latest version of Rails and stuff like that. Just like taking care of
Yeah,
all the things that you have to take care of.
totally. I thought you
Sometimes,
meant actual housekeeping, like walking around your house and putting things where they go so that you feel better about your about your
yeah, yeah,
space, which is
that
also a good thing to do at work.
that yeah, that I do that pretty regularly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, actually, that's what I did on Wednesday and on Friday when I got stuck with like writing some code. I just get up and clean the dishes or
Yeah,
whatever. Just
right.
like
Yes.
do something entirely else and think about it a little bit more in the
Mhm.
process, and then get back to it and still fail. But I mean, I learned a lot of things,
I'm sure.
which was
I'm sure.
nice. Yeah. So overall, things are in a better shape and a better state than they were a couple of weeks ago, and that
Good.
yeah, just
Good to
like
hear.
it's I'm finally able to think again in a way. Like
Mhm.
one thing that was tough in the last couple of weeks was just like because so many things were happening and so many fires needed attention. I felt like I wasn't able to even clearly think about a problem and find a good solution because I just didn't have the energy or the capacity to do so. And
Mhm.
with everything in control now, it feels like I can spend a day in just like thinking about a problem, deeply thinking about something and working on a
Right.
solution. And
Right.
that's a good feeling. I'm glad I'm back in this state. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So in other news or in other progress or other things that are happening in user list, we switched our accountant and bookkeeping service over the last couple of weeks. We're now using less accounting
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah,
the
totally.
company we were using previously. And we actually kept our QuickBooks set up, so we're
Mhm.
not entirely switching to less accounting, but they hooked us up with a super good bookkeeper and an accountant. It's like our previous service was fine, like it was cheap and it did the job, but this is so much better. we
It
finally
wa
have
it
someone we have finally
it
have someone who's like proactive about stuff. Whereas previously it felt a little bit like they would keep our books, but yeah, not talk to us about it. No, don't ask any questions.
yeah. They're basically just
Yeah,
putting the numbers where they go, but not doing any,
no,
consultative
no.
approach to you of, "Hey, here's what I'm" okay, got it.
And this new team, like they went in and basically redid the books for 2020, at least in parts. Like created a bunch of new accounts and reorganized stuff, so it's more obvious where we're spending the money. They raised a couple potential problems that we have to be aware of, like sales tax and stuff like that. Um, and they're like overall just way more proactive and asking questions and yeah, pointing
Cool.
at things that might be a problem. And it just feels so good.
So it it looks a little bit more like they're targeted towards freelancers and consultants, but as a small SaaS team, they're set up for that as well? I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds like
it sounds so far it hasn't been a problem.
cool.
And as I said, like they raised raised good questions and pointed out potential problems. It
Mhm.
sounds like they have other SaaS companies they're working with as well.
Cool.
Like Stripe wasn't a new thing for them and all of that stuff, so they picked up on that pretty quickly. And the accountant team, the CPA team, is even familiar with like companies with non-resident
That's yeah,
founders, and that's
that's what I was
also
gonna
pretty
ask you.
helpful.
That I'm
I mean,
sure it's just gotta be such a peace of mind to
yeah,
have a team who knows your setup and understands why it's beneficial and here's how to make sure it works for you. That's just gotta feel so good.
yeah, that's it. It feels really good.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see how the tax returns go. We had
Mhm,
some
mhm.
issues in the previous years where it felt like they weren't quite accurate, and we had to do several rounds. Let's see how it goes with the new team. But
Yeah,
overall, it just feels so much better.
good,
And it's,
good.
I mean, we're paying a little bit more than double what we paid before, but it feels like a good investment in terms of peace of mind and just being
Yeah,
sure that we're not missing anything. So
th
highly recommend it.
cool, cool, thanks for sharing that.
And then the last thing, Jane is doing a lot of marketing experiments these days.
Mm,
One thing she tried last week or over the last couple of weeks was doing a paid ads for our basically a book a demo call,
mhm,
um, or a CTA book a demo CTA.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and it kind of worked in terms of like we got more demo requests, but the no-show rate was way higher. I think
Oh,
I
okay,
I don't
yeah.
have the exact numbers, but like the majority just didn't show up.
Mm, mhm.
And I
Because
stepped in and
the first conversion from the paid ad was book a demo, not download a thing,
yeah,
follow up, book a demo. It
yeah,
was the first. Okay, cool.
yeah. It was
Okay.
like we tried some paid ads previously where the first call to action was basically sign up,
Uh-huh.
and that didn't really work. Like we got some trials, but they were not a good fit and stuff like that.
Mm,
And in the end, I think none of them converted. And now we tried book a demo, and yeah, a lot of people just didn't show up. Some of them, like I did 2 calls with people today, um, and one of them might sign up, and it sounds like they are. But they're not a SaaS business, but at least they can make use of it. And the other one was just, yeah, it was obvious that we're not a good fit, so I sent them
mhm.
somewhere else. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Overall, it feels like it's still not the right approach. We're building landing pages for dedicated lead magnets this
Yeah,
week, and then try to get people on the mailing list and then nurture them there a little bit.
right.
Um, yeah, hopefully that will work better. It- like thinking about it probably will, but who knows? We have to try it. And then yeah, let's see.
Mhm. Do you have, I mean, just a like a rough estimate of, like, what the no-show rate is from organic traffic versus, I know you said you didn't know the exact numbers, but, like, what is a ballpark of a no-show rate?
I think we have like on with regular traffic, we have like a no-show rate of maybe 10% or so.
Yeah,
Like it's
okay,
pretty
right,
like most people show up for the
manageable,
demos.
right, yeah.
And with the paid ads, it feels like it's 80% no-show or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
So
I mean,
yeah.
huge difference, yes, okay, cool,
And to
that's
be
okay.
honest, we're not doing a lot of like actually we don't do any pre-qualification at all. It's just like
Mhm,
landing page with a button there, and you can
mhm,
book a call. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, it's an experiment. I don't think we will refine that, but if we do this again, we'll probably just like have them fill out a form and then invite them to a demo after that or something like that. But
right,
yeah, I don't know. We're putting hopes into the lead magnet experiment. Let's see how
mhm,
that goes.
cool.
So yeah, that's what's been
That's about it?
happening in user lists.
Cool, okay. Well, it's a good it's a good catch up.
Yeah.
Guess we'll, I don't think I've got anything else
How
this
did
week.
your playtest go? Or is that still
What's
coming
that?
up?
Oh, yeah, that was after, it was supposed to be before we talked last week, and it happened on Thursday. It went great. Um, he loved it, and just in terms of, like, what other games he owns and, like, listed on his, Board Game Geek profile, um, he thought it was a great game. We finished, and he was like, can I get this URL so that I can, play it anytime I want?" And like, wow, okay, that's a good sign. So we've got like these, 8 follow-up questions that we ask everybody after they play, and he had some constructive feedback on some of the mechanisms as it was going along that we're already gonna integrate and improve for the next round. It was seriously it was really encouraging. It was really, really fun. Um, it's like the first person outside of our personal circles to play,
Yeah.
and it it went really great. So the next yeah, I guess this is something I can talk about real quick is that the next thing that Graham and I are realizing we need to do is to get the rule book and to get the how-to video in a much more polished state so that we can just hand it off to to play groups to test it out. Like we
Mhm.
can't maintain a pace of needing to, sort of, yeah, manage the gameplay. Um, so that's our focus right now is that like get the rule book updated with a ton of graphics and diagrams and like far way more visual examples of what a rule is describing. And then I've got like I think 3 or 4 play groups that reached out to me in this Facebook group that I had been planning on playing with them, but instead I actually want to use it as like the first opportunity to say, here are the rules. Here's the virtual tabletop. It'd be great if you would record, screencast of your group playing. Um, but if nothing else, here's the game. Can't wait to hear your feedback. So that's like I think that's the next major I think milestone is what's called blind play testing, meaning
Mhm.
here's the rules, here's the game, play it now, as opposed to managed play testing, which is what we've been doing. Yeah, so it's coming along, man. It's
So
still
cool.
moving.
So
It's still moving.
the play groups didn't happen yet. For some
The play
reason,
groups did not happen yet. The what we played last week was, basically a three-player game.
Mhm.
Myself, Graham, my co-designer, and then this really cool dude, from Germany, Ben, who
Mhm.
wanted to play our crazy little game.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, these next upcoming ones are other, like, Colorado, play groups that meet, once every week or once every couple of weeks to play games together. So, gonna try to
Awesome.
get ours to their table. So, yeah, it's fun. It's fun. We gotta figure out, Graham and I, like, what is our timeline for saying, "Okay, it's pretty much done. It's time to, you know, prepare to print the first edition." Um, because I don't think I know that we have way different current expectations where, I'm like, "Look, I mean, it's print. Once it gets printed, it's locked." And so, unlike software, we really need to iterate, like, do, a whole bunch of work and revisions before we say, "Here's the first version." Um, and Graham sounds a lot more like Brian, the software consultant, where he's like, "No, at a certain point, we have to say, it's more important for us to finish our first game than to get it perfectly right. So, we should do, I don't know, like 10 more play tests, and then let's run a Kickstarter campaign." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." So, it is really funny, to try to find that balance. So, um, yeah, we'll see. But in short, like, our compromise right now is let's have 40 people, 40 groups play the game without us there and get feedback. How's that
Mhm.
number sound to you? 40. Which would be like a total of 50, of like basically 50 total since we've played it roughly 10 times already. So that's our current milestone, and then we'll revisit the conversation of how prepared do we think it is to invest in printing and run a
Mhm.
campaign. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's exciting. I guess there's always the danger of like waiting too long, or like I
Yeah.
feel like this is the phase
Yeah.
where you can easily get stuck and never get out
Yes.
of.
You're totally right. You're totally right. And, but and I I feel like, yeah, I think I'm maybe trying a little too hard to get it a little too right the first printing, as opposed to let's get it, let's be confident in it, understand it's imperfect, but we did it. We designed and printed a a game.
How
So,
much how much is like printing? Like what's the
yeah,
budget there? How much money do you need to make like a
totally,
small batch?
yeah, totally depends on the components that you include and the type of, components that are included. And so that's where I'm trying to get a better understanding. Is I've basically shared our Tabletopia setup with this board game manufacturing company to say, here are the components. Can you give me a breakdown and help us better understand? Cards are super cheap. Wooden tokens, not so cheap. Cardboard mats, in between. Like, what is the most expensive part of a game when I, pick it up at the local game shop? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So, um, but I mean, I think what we would be trying to shoot for is how can we get it down to, 10 to $15 our cost per box, so that then we can sell it for $39, add some shipping to it. Like that is my very rough, you know, guess at the moment, and that could be wildly off. Um, but most likely, I think that we would be shooting for like probably 500 or 1,000 or 1,500 copies. Um, and I mean, hopefully more along the lines of like 500 to 1,000. But it kind of depends on the particular manufacturer's minimums and all this other, like, manufacturing side of things that I think will be fun to learn about, but then really laborious to execute.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but that's like a whole other side of this chain that will be brand new, but exciting.
Sounds like a big investment though. Like I
Yep.
mean, if they
S-
need at least 1,000 copies to even start production, then it's a decent chunk of money you need to actually get this printed. Yeah.
Totally. So that's why we would run. That's why we're leaning towards, okay, we run a Kickstarter campaign, you know, at we need, you know 300 supporters at $40 per supporter. Does that get us to 70 or 80% of the
Hmm.
funds? Then we will split the rest, and then, hope to eventually make that back up on the other side of it. Is basically how we would look at it. We would not we would not get a, $20,000 quote from a manufacturer and then throw 10,000 of our own dollars at it and then say, okay, let's try and go sell this thing. Like that, we're not gonna do it
Yeah.
that way. We're trying to get an estimate of the funds, so that we can know what would our Kickstarter goal be, and what percentage of that do we want to set our funding goal at?
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big like
See the
sounds
wheels
like a
turning
big
over there.
sounds like a big step. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of ways to do this like earlier and cheaper, but
Yeah.
I don't-
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like Tabletopia is like the a good compromise to have something that you can test and tweak and
It
yeah.
it is a really great, uh, cheat for testing the mechanics. How do these things work together? Like all the multiple different individual mechanics that we have working together to create one system. Um, But at the same time, there's just, there are UI issues, like, to put it in software language. Like,
Mhm.
there's this whole thing where you're trying to, you have to look at 3 different cards at the exact same time, and if you had you had 1 card in your hand at a table, and then those other 2 right next to each other, it's just a very easy comparison. Whereas on Tabletopia, you have to zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, and hold all that in your head. And so there's like this feeling where we're saying, "Hey, this part of the game working?" Because it really creates a lag, but it's that you're not holding the things in your hand. So it makes it really hard to know, do we need to tweak the rules there? Do we need to make a change? Or no, it works. It's that we're building a physical thing and trying to test it digitally.
Mhm.
So, but it has definitely been way more beneficial than it has been a slowdown because we're
Yeah.
going to be able to get so many more tests than we ever would have been able to
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah.
So,
Can you
yeah,
just create a paper prototype yourself? Like
you can. Yep.
print it
So
and put it on cardboard, cut it out, maybe get
yes.
some, I don't know, get some colored Legos or something like that
Yeah,
as
for
tokens and
components. Yep.
stuff like that.
Yes. And so, I mean, typically that is how, I mean, that and still how many people, do prototypes. Our game it'd be a total of, like, kind of off the top of my head, just trying to think, somewhere around 40 pages, to print and then cut out, all those individual cards. So it would not be a small investment of time. Um, and so that'll be maybe the next that is the next step for us personally,
Yeah.
is while we get this other round of testing kicked off, of blind play testing kicked off, let's the two of us invest the time and materials into printing out a physical version so that we can see, what's the table presence like, and how does it feel as a game
Mhm.
to be looking at. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. That's a
But
nice
yeah,
project overall. Like, sounds like
it's
a fun side project.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's been super life-giving. So
Awesome.
okay, this time for real.
Yeah.
That's okay. Good catching up, man. We'll
Yeah.
we'll talk next week.
See you. Bye.
Bye.